It was a hot summer afternoon, and the air was thick with tension. In a quiet neighborhood, an angry white cop, frustrated by what he thought was a simple situation, made a decision that would change everything. Without warning, he shot and killed a black man's dog, an innocent companion, a beloved pet, and a family member. But what the cop didn't know, what no one knew, was that this was no ordinary man he had just crossed. The dog wasn't just a dog, and the man wasn't just any man. This wasn't a simple case of an officer acting out of anger. The person he had just wronged was someone with a past that would shock the very people who thought they understood him. Now, the story is far from over. What happened next would send shockwaves through the entire community and beyond, sparking a chain of events that no one could have predicted. Who was this man really? What was his connection to the tragic loss of his dog? And what would the consequences be for the officer who thought he had gotten away with his actions? Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking truth behind a moment that nobody saw coming. The man, whose name was Malik, had always kept a low profile. To the outside world, he was just another face in the crowd, a regular guy trying to live his life in peace. But his life wasn't ordinary, not by any means. Malik had been through things most people couldn't even imagine, things he never spoke about. He kept to himself, working long hours, staying quiet. His dog, a loyal German shepherd named Zeus, was his only real companion, his protector, his friend. They were inseparable. Malik never let anyone in, not truly. But that day, when the cop pulled up in front of his house, something broke. The officer, who had been known for his quick temper, saw Malik standing by his front porch with Zeus by his side. What started as a simple interaction spiraled into something far darker when Zeus, doing what any dog would do, growled at the officer, sensing a threat. It was a split-second reaction, but it was enough. The cop, in a blind fury, drew his weapon and shot the dog dead before Malik could even react. Malik's world went silent in that instant. He stared at the lifeless body of his dog, rage swelling in his chest, but something deeper lingered. He wasn't just angry, he was aware that this moment was far from ordinary. The cop had no idea what Malik's true story was, and soon the truth would unfold, sending ripples through the community in a way nobody saw coming. The cop, Officer Daniels, had never thought twice about his actions. To him, it was just another day on the job, another aggressive dog to deal with. His training and his instincts told him to react, to act fast, and he did. But what he didn't understand was the quiet storm that was brewing inside Malik. The anger wasn't just about a lost pet, it was about something deeper, something that had been building for years. Malik's past wasn't just full of quiet moments and mundane routines. It was filled with scars, both physical and emotional. He had once been a soldier, a man trained for combat, a man who had seen too much and fought too hard. The weight of the things he had done, the people he had lost, followed him every day, but so did the lessons he learned in those dark moments. Never forget where you came from. Never forget who you really are. The shooting of Zeus wasn't a random act to Malik. It was an affront to everything he had worked to bury, the rage, the violence, the memories. And it wasn't just Officer Daniels who had crossed the line. The system, the society, they had all failed him long ago. His anger was bubbling up, but he knew this was no ordinary fight. The truth of his identity, his past, had to come out for this to mean something. As the news of the shooting spread, the community began to divide. Some saw Malik as just another victim, while others rallied behind the officer, supporting him as a lawman doing his job. But whispers started to spread, rumors of who Malik really was. It wasn't long before his past began to catch up with him. The people closest to him, the few he had allowed into his world, were left to wonder if the man they knew was truly who he appeared to be. Would Malik take matters into his own hands? Or would he be swallowed up by the very system that had made him? And as tensions grew, Officer Daniels, oblivious to the storm he had just unleashed, began to question his own actions. What if he had made a mistake? What if there was more to this than he could ever have imagined? The question gnawed at him, but he couldn't let it show. Not yet. As the days passed, the tension in the neighborhood thickened. The streets that had once been calm were now divided. Malik had become a symbol of resistance for some, a tragic figure who had been wronged by the system. For others, he was just another angry man stirring up trouble. But the truth was, neither side understood the full scope of the storm. He didn't want to be a symbol. He wanted justice, real justice, and he was willing to go to extreme lengths to get it. Behind closed doors, Malik began to make plans. The anger that had once felt like a smoldering fire was now a blazing inferno. He wasn't just fighting for Zeus anymore. He was fighting for everything he had lost. The people who had abandoned him. The memories he couldn't shake. The war he had survived. But Malik wasn't stupid. He knew that any move he made would have consequences. The law enforcement would be looking for him, and the system that had failed him before was waiting to pounce. So he went underground, laying low, but every night, his mind churned with thoughts of what needed to happen. Meanwhile, Officer Daniels couldn't escape the gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. The guilt was starting to creep in. He kept replaying the incident in his mind, seeing the lifeless body of the dog, hearing the screeching tires, and seeing Malik's face. More than anger, there was something else there. Something deeper. Was it fear? Was it something he had failed to recognize? As the investigation into the shooting picked up steam, Daniels felt the pressure mounting. Rumors about Malik's past began to circulate, making him question everything he thought he knew. Was Malik really just a quiet man with a dog? Or was there something more, something dangerous, lurking beneath the surface? Then came the night when Malik decided to take action. The storm he had been brewing for weeks finally reached its breaking point. Armed with a new resolve, a dark past he could no longer ignore, he made his way toward the police station. The streets were eerily quiet, as if the city itself held its breath. The final showdown was drawing closer, and neither Malik nor Officer Daniels knew how it would all end, but they both knew it was inevitable. Everything was about to collide. Malik moved swiftly through the shadows, his heart pounding in his chest. The tension in the air was suffocating as he approached the police station. The world around him felt distant. His focus was solely on the confrontation that was looming. He didn't know exactly what he was going to do when he got there, but he knew it was the only way to make a statement. He was tired of being a passive spectator in his own life. But just as he neared the corner, a car sped by, its headlights cutting through the darkness. It was an unmarked vehicle, one that he didn't recognize. The car slowed as it passed, and Malik's instincts flared. Something was wrong. He stopped dead in his tracks and watched as the vehicle turned into a nearby alley. Before he could process what was happening, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out quickly, his pulse racing. It was a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you're not the only one with a score to settle. Don't go to the station. It's a trap. Asterisk. Malik's breath caught in his throat. Who could have known what he was planning? Who else had a stake in this fight? His mind spun as the realization hit him. This wasn't just about the cop anymore. This was something bigger, something he had never anticipated. He glanced back toward the station, where the lights were flickering ominously. Could this be a setup? Had someone been watching him the entire time? Was the law after him, or was it something darker? Something from his past that had come back to haunt him? The message left more questions than answers. He could feel the eyes of the city on him, watching his every move, waiting for him to make the wrong one. With no time to waste, Malik quickly turned and headed in the opposite direction, trying to make sense of this new twist in his already dangerous path. But just as he thought he might be getting a handle on things, he caught a glimpse of the car again, parked now just a few blocks away. A figure stepped out of it, a familiar face, but one he hadn't seen in years. The weight of this new revelation crashed over him. The person in that car wasn't just anyone. It was someone from Malik's past, someone whose involvement could change everything. The figure from the car stepped out into the dim light, and Malik's stomach dropped. It was someone he never expected to see again, his old comrade, Jackson. They had fought side by side in wars that felt like lifetimes ago. After the battle, they had parted ways, each carrying scars that went deeper than any physical wound. But now, here he was, standing in front of Malik like a ghost from a past he had tried so hard to forget. "Malik," Jackson said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "You don't have to do this. It's not what you think." Malik felt the air around him tighten. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up now. After all this time, you think you can stop me?" Jackson took a step forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to warn you. The cop, Daniels, he's not the one you need to worry about. It's bigger than that." Malik's heart pounded in his chest. "What the hell are you talking about?" Jackson lowered his voice even more, leaning in close. "The shooting. It wasn't random. Daniels is just a pawn. The people behind this, they've been watching you for a long time, waiting for the right moment to pull you back in. The whole thing, the dog, the cop, it's all a setup. They want you, Malik, and they've been grooming you for this moment since you left." Malik's mind raced. His breath came in short bursts as everything he thought he knew came crashing down. Who wants me?" Jackson stepped back, eyes scanning the street. "You've always been a target, ever since you walked away from the military. They didn't just train you, Malik. They made you. They need you for something big, and now you're playing right into their hands." Malik's world tilted as the weight of Jackson's words settled over him. He wasn't just a man fighting for justice. He was a piece in a much larger game, one he hadn't even known was being played. His life had never been his own. It was always in the hands of others, and now it was too late to turn back. Before he could respond, the sound of sirens cut through the air. Malik's head snapped toward the noise. The police had arrived, but this time it wasn't just Daniels. A convoy of cars was speeding toward them, and he could see the uniforms, more than one officer. This wasn't just about a rogue cop anymore. This was a coordinated operation, one that would engulf everything in its path. Jackson stepped toward the car, motioning for Malik to follow. "Come with me now. If we don't leave, they'll take you." Malik hesitated for a moment, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and anger. But then something clicked. This wasn't just about revenge, about a dog, or even a single corrupt officer. This was about survival. And as much as he hated to admit it, Jackson was right. There was no turning back. With one final look at the police station, Malik turned away and followed Jackson into the darkness. But as he did, his phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a new message. Asterisk, "We know where you are. Don't think you're safe." Asterisk. The final twist slammed into him like a freight train. This wasn't just a fight for justice. It was a battle for his life. And the ones pulling the strings weren't just in the shadows. They were everywhere. And Malik was only just beginning to realize how deep this rabbit hole went. Malik and Jackson drove through the night, the city's lights blurring into a sea of neon. The message on Malik's phone still flashed in his mind. The game was far from over, and the stakes were higher than ever. He thought about his life, the quiet moments with Zeus, the battles he had fought, the things he had buried. All of it had led to this point, where every decision felt like a choice between survival and surrender. But as the car rumbled on, Malik realized something crucial. It wasn't just about fighting back. It was about taking control of his own story, refusing to be a pawn anymore. The people behind this dark plot, those who had shaped his life without him ever knowing, would face him one day. But for now, he was free. For the first time in a long time, he had a chance to rewrite his future. Jackson glanced over at him, his expression somber. "You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out." Malik nodded, but inside, he knew there was still much to uncover. The system, the forces that had orchestrated it all, they wouldn't stop. But neither would he. The truth, his truth, was still out there. As the car disappeared into the horizon, one thing was certain: Malik's fight was just beginning. And the world would never look at him the same way again.